Every agent I talk to right now is scared of the same thing, and it's not rates, and it's not inventory, really not business. It's artificial intelligence. They see the headlines. They see strangers online building websites in an afternoon, writing full scripts in 60 seconds, and closing deals with a robot answering the phone at midnight. When they open their own laptop, type one real estate question into a chatbot and get an answer that reads like a textbook written by nobody for nobody, that gap between what AI promises on the internet and what actually helps a working agent sell a house is where most agents quit before they ever start. And it's the same gap that kept a lot of good producers sitting on the sidelines for the last 2 years watching everyone else move first. So here's the good news. You don't need to code. You don't need a $10,000 course. You don't need to understand a single line of what's happening under the hood. You need one tool, and you need to know how to ask it questions the right way. The tool is called NotebookLM. Google built it. It's free to start, and it solves the exact problem that makes every other AI tool feel unsafe to a real estate agent, which is this. Regular chatbots make things up. They guess. They blend 1,000 random websites together and hand you an answer with total confidence, even when it's wrong, and even when it's dangerous to repeat to a client sitting across the table from you. NotebookLM by Google doesn't do that, and that's the one difference, and that's why I'm starting with every agent I train with this exact tool and nowhere else. Now think about what happens when you ask a normal chatbot a real estate question. You type in, how do I handle a seller who wants to price $200,000 over the comparable value? And it hands you back a generic paragraph that could apply to selling a used car, a timeshare, or a house in a market it knows nothing about. So it sounds confident, it sounds smart, and it's guessing, blending internet noise with 1,000 sources with no idea which ones were written by a top producer and which ones were written by a blogger who's never held an open house in their life. You cannot build a business on a tool that guesses with confidence. That's the exact reason most agents try AI once, get a bad answer, and never come back. NotebookLM only answers from the sources you hand it, nothing else. You load it with your own documents, your own videos, your own transcripts, and when you ask it a question, it goes out to find the answer inside of those specific sources and hands it back to you with a citation. It's like a research assistant who actually did the reading instead of faking the book report. That single difference is why this is the on-ramp. Not because it's flashy, but because it's grounded. You know exactly where every answer came from, and you can check straight into the source. Check it yourself before you ever repeat it to a client. So let me show you what I build with it, because I'm not faking theory right now. I'm talking about the notebook sitting open on my screen. It's Real Estate Success and Strategies Guide. And on the left side of the notebook, I loaded over 100 videos, not random videos, interviews, trainings, and breakdowns from agents and coaches who've actually closed real production. The kind of material that usually takes a person years of listening to podcasts in their car to be able to absorb. 100 plus hours of real strategy sitting in one place, well organized, searchable, and waiting to be asked a question the second I need an answer. So here's what I do. This is what I do with it. So when I have a real question, something specific to my business, whether it's artificial intelligence or implementation strategies or structural approaches or whatever it may be with regard to real estate or AI architectures, whether it's my market, my client, whether they're in front of me right now, I don't go at it alone, and I don't ask a generic chatbot that's never sold a house in its life. I go directly into the notebook and I ask it directly. I ask it what these 100 videos say about handling a seller who thinks their home is worth more than the comp support. I ask it what the best closers say about a buyer who goes quiet after a showing. I ask it how the top producers open a listing presentation in the first 90 seconds, and it answers me using only what's actually inside those recordings, with the timestamp and the source right there, so I can go watch the original clip if I want the full context. So let me get specific for just a second, because vague promises are exactly what got agents burned by AI in the first place. I typed into this notebook based on everything in these 100 videos. What is the single biggest mistake new agents make in their first listing presentation? And it didn't hand me back some generic list scraped off a blog. It pulled together the actual pattern these top producers kept repeating across a dozen different interviews. The new agents talk too much about themselves and not about the seller's actual goal for the money. With the source clipped linked right underneath so I could watch the exact moment that idea was said and hear the tone, the pause, the way the closer delivered it. That's the difference between an answer and a real answer. One you can trace back to a human being who's actually lived it. That's exactly how I built the script you're listening to right now. I didn't sit down and stare at a blank page hoping inspiration would show up. It never does. I asked my own NotebookLM a series of questions about how the simplest, least technical agent in the room can start using artificial intelligence without getting overwhelmed, and I pulled from real proven material to shape the answer you're hearing. That's the whole method. Ask better questions, get grounded answers, build the thing. It's not magic, it's a process. And it's one any agent reading a phone screen right now can learn in one sitting, tonight before you go to bed. I want to be clear about something before I go further. I'm not selling you anything on this video. I'm not pitching a course. I'm not pitching a subscription. I'm asking you to book a call. And I'm not asking you to do that either. I'm an agent who figured out a tool that works. And I think withholding it from other agents while the wealthy brokerages quietly build their own AI advantage is exactly how the little guy gets left behind again. This is an education, plain and simple. So take it, use it, go build your own version of what I'm about to walk you through. And if it helps you close one more deal this year, that's the whole point of putting this out, and hopefully you'll send me positive vibes. So step one is simple. You go to notebooklm.google.com. You sign in with a free Google account and you create a new notebook. That's the entire barrier to entry. No installation, no plugin, no developer setting anything up for you, no IT department to call. You give the notebook a name that tells you what it's for, something like my listing presentation library or objection handling vault or new agent training notebook. And then you move to step two, which is loading in your sources. The sources are anything you already have sitting around collecting dust. Training videos you saved and never rewatched, PDFs of scripts you paid for years ago, all of the Matt Ferry, Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Ferry, all these other real estate training coaches, transcripts from coaching calls, your own past listing presentation, market reports, even your own notes typed into a document. You drop these files in, or you paste a YouTube link or a whole bunch of YouTube links. You paste a website and the notebook reads out all of it, turns it into a searchable brain that belongs only to you. And then you load up 50 sources in the free version, and that's plenty for most agents to build something real and useful on their very first try. You don't need 100 sources to start. I don't want that number to scare anybody off tonight. My notebook grew over to 100 videos over months. A few sources added every week whenever I came across something worth keeping. Your first notebook might have 3 files in it. One script you like, one training video that you've rewatched twice, and your own notes from the last coaching call. That's a real notebook, and that's enough to basically ask a real question and get a grounded answer back tonight. The 100 videos came from consistency, not from one big weekend project, and yours will grow the exact same way. If you just add one source every time you come across something worth keeping, instead of letting it disappear into a bookmark folder that you never open again. So step 3 is where the real value shows up, and it's the part most people skip because they don't realize how powerful it actually is. You ask questions, not vague ones, but specific ones tied to a real situation you're actually facing. So instead of typing, tell me about objection handling, you type, my seller just got a lowball offer and is pissed off. Walk me through how the top producers in these sources talk, and then talk them off the ledge. The more specific the question, the sharper the answer, because the notebook is searching real transcripts for real language and real closers actually used, that they really used in real conversations, not generic advice pulled from the entire internet with no idea who said it or whether it was ever actually worked. Now, there's a feature inside NotebookLM called Audio Overview that agents sleep on constantly. With one click, it takes everything in your notebook, it turns it into a conversation between 2 AI voices discussing your material, like a podcast. You can listen to it in the car on the way to a listing appointment. 10 minutes of driving turns into a review session of your own best training content, condensed, organized, and spoken back to you instead of sitting in a folder you'll never open again. That's your commute turned into a coaching session for free, using content that you already own and already paid for once. Now there's a second feature called Mind Map, and this one's built for the agent who learns better by seeing that whole picture laid out instead of reading a paragraph after paragraph. One click and it takes your entire notebook and draws it out as a visual tree. Main topics branching into subtopics so you can see at a glance that your objection handling library actually breaks down into price objections, timing objections, commission objections, each one with its own branch of proven language underneath it. So for a visual learner, that map does in 10 seconds what would take an hour of scrolling through transcripts to piece together on your own. There's a third feature worth knowing before we move into real use cases, and it's the FAQ and study guide generator. One click builds a full set of anticipated questions and answers straight out of your sources, which sounds small until you realize what it actually replaces. So preparing a new agent onboarding packet used to mean somebody sitting down for a full weekend writing out every question a rookie might ask and every answer a veteran would give. Now the notebook builds that packet in under a minute, pulled straight from real training material instead of somebody's memory of what they think they used to say 5 years ago. You review it, you tighten that language to sound like your brokerage, and you've got a training document that would have taken a manager an entire Saturday to write from scratch. Now let's talk about 6 ways an agent can actually use this starting today, and I want you to picture your own week while I walk through these, not some hypothetical agent in a hypothetical market. Now first, objection handling. So load up every training video and script you have on price objections, commission objections, and of course timing objections. When you're prepping for a tough listing appointment tonight, ask your notebook to pull the strongest counters from your sources and rehearse them out loud before you walk in the door tomorrow morning. You show up prepared with language that's actually been tested by people who've actually closed thousands of deals instead of winging it and hoping the right words show up under pressure at the kitchen table. Second, that's going to be market prep. So you're going to load your MLS data exports, your comp sheets, your notes from the last 12 months of activity in your farm area before a listing presentation. Ask the notebook to summarize the pricing trends, the days on market, and the strongest talking points for that specific neighborhood. What used to take you 45 minutes of digging through spreadsheets now takes 4 minutes of asking the right questions, and you walk into the appointment sounding like you've been studying that street your entire career because, in a sense, once you've loaded it into your notebook, you have been. Number 3 or third is content creation. That's exactly what you're watching right now. Every video, every social post, every email you need to write starts the same way. Most agents get stuck, staring at a blank screen with no idea where to begin. So instead, you load your best part or best past content, your favorite scripts, your favorite training videos, and a notebook built for content. You ask it to help you outline a video on a topic your audience keeps raving about. Now, you're not asking a robot to write your voice for you. You're asking a research assistant to hand you the raw material, organized and grounded so you can write it the rest of the way in your own words, in your own rhythm, the way only you talk. Fourth, and this is the one that changes the entire brokerage, not just one agent, it's training new agents. Every veteran producer has decades of hard-won knowledge sitting in their head that never gets written down and dies the day they retire or leave the business. I didn't say the other thing. Load their own old training calls, their scripts and recorded role plays into a shared notebook, and suddenly a brand new agent with 6 months in the business can ask that notebook, and the whole brokerage has access to it, the same question they'd ask a mentor at night on a Sunday without bothering anyone or feeling like they're wasting somebody's time. You just built a mentor that never sleeps, never gets annoyed, and never runs out of patience and works exactly as well at midnight as it does at 9 o'clock in the morning. Fifth, listing descriptions and follow-up nurturing emails. 2 pieces of writing every agent has to produce consistently and constantly, and almost nobody enjoys producing them. So load your best performing past listing descriptions, the ones that actually generated showings along with a handful of trainings on buyer psychology and copywriting for real estate. Then feed the notebook the raw facts on your new listing, the square footage, the upgrades, and lot size, the school district, and then asked it to draft a description in the pattern that worked before, grounded in language proven to move buyers instead of language that sounds like it was copied off the county assessor's website. Same process works for a 6-touch follow-up sequence after an open house. You're not outsourcing your voice, you're outsourcing the blank page, which is the part that actually eats your Tuesday night. Number 6 is repurposing what you already made instead of starting over every single time. The video itself is a perfect example. Once it's recorded, the same notebook, you can take the transcript and help you draft a YouTube description, a set of social captions, and a follow-up email to your list, all pulled from that same grounded source material instead of sitting down 5 separate times trying to remember what you actually said. One conversation with your notebook, 5 pieces of content, all consistent, all traceable back to the same original idea. That's the entire game of content marketing solved for a solo agent who doesn't have a marketing department sitting behind them, turning one recording into a week of material. One more use case before we move on, and this is the one that saves your Saturday morning instead of just your marketing hours. You build a separate notebook for every active listing. You load the seller's disclosures, the inspection report, the HOA documents, the title report, everything that piles up in a transaction and usually leaves scattered across 6 different email threads you can never find at 10 at night when a buyer calls with a question. So then you ask the listing notebook what the inspection report says about the roof, on what page the HOA rules mention rental restrictions on, or you get the exact answer with that exact page number in seconds instead of digging through a 40-page PDF standing in your driveway while the client waits on their phone. That single habit alone will save you more stress than any other use case combined once a transaction starts to get complicated. Now, I know that some of you are thinking right now, because I used to think it too, this feels too much. This just feels like too much tech, too many steps, too much to learn on top of what's already a full plate. Here's the truth. If you can type a question into a search bar, you already have every skill required to use this tool. There's no code, there's no formula, there's no setting you can break. The entire interface is a box that asks the same question and a wall of your own material ready to answer it. The simplest agent in your office, the one who prints out directions instead of using a mapping app, can open this and get real value from it the first 5 minutes tonight while they're sitting on their couch watching A Star Is Born. Now, some of you are also wondering about your data, and that's a fair question. It's not a paranoid one. What you load into your own notebook stays tied to your own account. It's not thrown into some public pile of information for the whole internet to train on, like in a large language model. So you treat it the way you treat any client file. You don't load anything with private client financial details or signed contracts containing information you're not allowed to share, and use it in the way it's meant to be used, as a library of training material, market data, and your own scripts. Common sense applies here exactly like it applies to email and every other tool already sitting on your desktop. And I'll also say this, because I don't want you thinking NotebookLM replaces every other AI tool you might already be using, because it doesn't. And it's not supposed to. You think of it as a research and grounding layer, the place you go first to make sure whatever you produce next is actually built on real proven material instead of a guess. So once you have a grounded answer out of your notebook, you can absolutely take that and refine the wording somewhere else, polish a headline, adjust tone for a specific platform. The mistake is doing that step first, asking a generic tool to write from nothing and hoping it sounds right. Ground it first, polish it second. That order matters more than which specific tool you use for the polish. The wealthy have had this advantage quietly for a while now. Big teams with big budgets have been building private knowledge systems, feeding their own top performers calls and scripts into tools like this, so their whole team levels up faster than the market average around them. The solo agent, the one-person shop, the person watching this without a marketing department behind them, they've been locked out of that advantage, not because the tool is expensive, but because nobody explained it in plain language yet. Well, that ends today. This tool's free to start. The only real cost is 15 minutes of your evening to build your first notebook and load your first 5 sources into it. So give this 12 months, not 12 minutes, to watch what actually happens to your business. An agent who adds one good source to their notebook every single week ends the year with over 50 pieces of proven grounded material feeding every listing presentation, every objection, every piece of content they put out. That agent isn't smarter than the agent standing next to them at the broker open. They just stopped starting from zero every time a hard question showed up. Compounding doesn't feel like much in week 1. It looks like nothing happening at all. But then month 6 arrive and you realize that you've just built something the agent across the street can't replicate in an afternoon because it's built from your own real experiences, stacked one source at a time. And that's not something a competitor can copy off your website. So here's your assignment. Tonight, go to notebooklm.google.com. Create one notebook, load 5 things you already own into it, 5 videos, 5 PDFs, 5 old scripts, whatever you've got sitting in a folder somewhere collecting digital dust. Ask it one real question about a real situation you're facing this week. Watch what comes back and check the citation it hands you against the actual source. That's the whole test. You don't need to build the perfect system on day 1. You need to prove to yourself that grounded AI built from real sources beats a generic AI chatbot every single time, because it does. And once you see it once, you won't go back to guessing. I built a video you watched using exactly this method on a notebook stacked with over 100 hours of proven real estate training, asking it question after question until the outline you just heard came together. I'm handing you the blueprint for free because artificial intelligence should not be a tool reserved for agents who can afford a tech team and a marketing department. It should be in the hands of every single agent willing to spend 15 minutes learning how to ask a better question. And that's the mission behind everything I put out, and it's not going to change no matter how far this technology runs. I'm Connor with Honor. If you want to find more of this kind of breakdown, you can go to SantaClaritaArtificialintelligence.com. Go out now and build your notebook. Go load your first 5 sources. Go ask it a real question tonight and go into your next listing appointment sounding like you've got 100 hours of experience standing right behind you, because now you do. AI for every agent, not just the ones already winning. I'm Connor with Honor. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.